All right, folks, I'm very excited about this panel. You know, for a long time, there's been this perception about retail for the last 10 years that retail has been dead, but it's really made a comeback, but very quietly. It's probably one of the sexiest assets that's out there, right? Retail is far more sexy than multifamily and some of the other stuff. And to talk about that today, I'm very happy to have two people, one of them who never goes on stage. He's one of the largest owners of iconic retail in the country, Faneuil Hall in Boston, the Boston train station, Union Station in Washington, D.C., Barney's, the list goes on. Bayside, he's got 1 million square feet in Bayside in Miami that he's about to develop. Please put your hands together for Ben Ashkenazy, the founder of Ashkenazy Acquisition Corporation. Next, we have somebody who doesn't want to be called a legend, so I'm not going to call him a legend, but he's the founder of Old Navy. He took Gap from $400 million to $14 billion as the CEO and chairman. He took Anne Klein to another stratosphere. He was the CEO and chairman of J.Crew when J.Crew exploded in the early parts of the 2000s. He's absolutely not a legend, but we're very happy to have him here today. Currently, he's the chairman of Alex Mill. Please put your hands together for Mickey Drexler. So guys, let me dive right into it. I'm very happy to have both of you guys here. There's this horrible perception about retail, that retail's been dead. But right now, vacancy across the country for retail is at 4%, which is incredible. In the cities, in New York City, in San Francisco, they're suffering a bit more. San Francisco definitely, but New York City is at about 5.9%. I want to go first to Ben. Ben, why do you think retail has this horrible perception? Are you having a hard time? Put it to your mouth. No, you don't have to turn.
Hello?
Yeah, you're good.
What's the question?
Hello. Why do you think retail has this perception where people don't want to invest in it, people don't want to develop it? Why is there this stigma with retail right now?
Right. The banks, they all tell you, oh, retail. It's amazing to me because the space of retail is a space of living. If you think about it, all we do all day is spend our money. Every aspect of it revolves around retail. But retail is a big word. What does it mean? It's experiential, it's entertainment, right? It's food and beverage, it's shopping, it's buying your wife a present. There's everything that we do from the minute. How about going to the gym? How about going to a hotel because the restaurants are cool and the bar on top, on the rooftop? That's all retail. So, you know, I laugh when people say, is retail a good business? First of all, the numbers don't lie. We're blowing it up. Retail sales have never, ever been better. Ever. I mean, you've got every chain just blowing it up. If you look at the stocks of all these companies, the richest people in the world, okay, some of them, a lot of them are out of retail. So it's Bernard Arnault, it's the owner of IKEA, it's the owner of H&M, it's Ortega from Zara. So you're talking about one of the greatest industries in the world that for some reason is kind of, looked upon as if it's not the same because of e-commerce. So we got to get into the whole e-commerce thing because that actually is the best thing that happened to retail as well. So, but a little bit about that. So the biggest thing right now we sign a lease with retailers is they want to exclude from percentage rent the e-commerce sales. Right, Mickey? They want to exclude it. Why? Because Whole Foods, in a building I own at the Christie's, which was doing $60 or $70 million in business, is doing $100 million in business because of e-commerce, right? So,
was that
e-commerce is a hybrid with retail, and retailers are benefiting greatly from e-commerce. That doesn't mean Amazon is not a great company. Okay, it's just another means of getting merchandise or getting necessities.
Let me ask you, when did the threat of Amazon disappear? Because for the longest time, people were like, everything's going to be ordered through Amazon.
Right.
When did that exactly, when was the time when that changed?
I'll tell you, that's a brilliant question, and thank God for COVID. Because COVID was that divide. COVID showed us that we're not going to sit home and just because we can order everything online, we're not robots, right? So the minute they let us out of the cage, where were we? Out in the streets. New York, New York, they're saying is not back. Socially, it's back better, bigger than ever. Yes, office is struggling. Some other aspects of real estate are struggling. But retail, you asked when did that expire? When did retail become as an acceptable space? When COVID, which I believe is the best way, it's almost like a test study. They locked you up. They said, just order online.
Yeah.
Right? Well, you got a computer. You don't need to go to the restaurant. You don't need to go to buy clothing. Just go and get it all online.
Right.
Well, that was nice, but everybody hated it. And so, if anything, it shows that it was like a wake-up call to, hey, it should have been a wake-up call to, hey, retail is the most amazing thing in the world because it's social. Like, is there anybody in this room that could tell me that they decided this weekend, the weather wasn't great, to stay home all weekend and just order online and not go to their favorite coffee shop, not go to dinner, not take their girlfriend shopping, not exercise, not go to the gym, not go to the spa, not go anywhere fun? Is there anybody in this room that decided to practice COVID this weekend? Because that's what Amazon's all about, right? Just sit home and order from us. We're the greatest company in the world. No, you're not the greatest company in the world. But you're just another form of retail.
But Mickey, you're a big retailer. You opened up thousands of shops for J. Crew and Gap and all these places. But right now, with your new shop, you choose not to have a brick and mortar shop. And why do you choose?
So about me?
Yeah. Alex Mill.
Oh, Alex.
This.
Oh, well, we're
You gotta speak into the mic.
yeah.
No, it's on. You just have to speak into it.
Hello? Okay. We're small, very small, and the big companies were very big. Too many stores, by the way, but we take one customer at a time. I'm offering everyone here a little VIP card. Tell your friends. It's part of the infomercial deal that I've made with Amir. But we're small, and it's very different than being big. When we were big, I had the Gap Bank for Old Navy. I had the J. Crew Bank for Madewell. And now, I only want investors who aren't going to...
Closer.
Closer?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
But if you could open up a shop, if Ben says you could go into a Faneuil Hall or some of these other great retail that he has, would you open up an Alex Mill in those spots?
I have a lot of friends who I've done business with, but they don't like when I say what I think about the shopping malls. But that's neither here nor
let us
there.
know. Let us know what you think about shopping malls.
What?
Let us know what you think about shopping malls.
Well, let me get to my pitch first. We have 2 shops. We're opening up a third at Rockefeller Center. Well, first of all, they all say we're too small to invest in, whatever. And whoever they are, I don't know. It's their opinion. And that I made a call to a number of my old associates who I probably did. Well, at Gap we did probably 2,000 more stores than we should have. And at J. Crew, we were okay. But in Old Navy, which is now the dominant business, $11 billion or so, and they opened up too many stores. I've been out of there for a long time. So I make a call to a number of developers, landlords, people I know.
Yep.
And Alex Mill's kind of at its moment right now. My son started it 11 years ago. I joined about 4 years ago with the number one creative director who I worked with for 15 years. Jen has done a great job, but she's not the one. He built Madewell, and you can't do this alone. And I called and I said, do you have a pop-up? Do you have something? I didn't want to take on, leases are the most damaging thing a bad lease that a retailer can have. And believe me, I've learned my lessons many times at Gap. All in all, we still did great, but there are reasons for that I won't go into. Not one person, and I'm shocked. I asked, in fact, I had breakfast with Ben Monday. We haven't seen each other in a number of years.
You got to speak into the
Okay, but get the noise down there, and then I'll speak. And I'm a kvetch. I complain about everything and anything. So that's my job. Anyway, I was looking for maybe someone who would, well, first of all, what I think, and then I'll stop. I think all the big landlords who own all these centers and 100 stores, 200, I think they ought to leave 4 or 5 stores empty for exciting pop-ups that might in fact become permanent. And again, they don't do it. We do stuff. I've always done this in the business. You always have to new arrivals, excitement, and the unexpected drives business, any business. You know, whether it's specials at a restaurant or you name it. But no one, I had one offer that popped up, which the deal was not.
That didn't excite you. The idea of the pop-up. The idea of a pop-up didn't excite you.
What?
It didn't excite you. The pop-up. No.
What? Say it again.
I said the idea of the pop-up didn't excite you.
Oh yeah, well, a pop-up, and it could be a test. In fact, I spoke to my friend Steve Yaloff. He worked many years at Gap Real Estate, now runs Tanger. And what he does, because he said he'll do it with us. We tried it once. It didn't work because we weren't ready yet to make something work. He has tenants who he invites. I know it's off price, but retail is retail. He has regular tenants who he has space for when they need it, and they're good tenants to get rid of excess. Now, I would like the same concept, and we're going into Rock Center, and I know the landlords well, but not that well, and they came to us, and they did something along those lines. They wanted us to be there. Now, creativity is not a long card in most companies. In real estate, you would know better Jeremy, I have to give Jeremy, my old friend, a plug. But there are them, and I know them. There's some brilliant out there, and I like creative things. No growth without creativity, but that's what I do. I could never run a real estate company ever, and I can't do technology. I barely work an iPhone. But I just think, look out there. In fact, there's a company in England, then I'll shut up. What's that English, they're kind of discounters, but not great English company?
I do want to get to the real estate part of it
Okay,
real quick.
go ahead.
So there's, Ben, I want to ask you this. Right now there's, Starbucks made an announcement that they want to open up 3,000 shops by 2030. Chipotle wants to open up 2,000 shops in the next 6 years. Yet there's there's very little retail development. Why aren't you guys developing to sort of accommodate for these stores and for these retailers?
Well, for starters, I think what's really, the extraordinary real estate is irreplaceable, and it's already taken. There's scarcity of great real estate all over the country. There's been a consolidation through this era of e-commerce where basically the A properties are where you want to be and where you dominate. So the tertiary markets are kind of not as exciting for the Starbucks of the world and for developers. So, there's plenty of development going on, right? It depends on the city, is it worthy of development? San Francisco, obviously not. In Chicago right now, downtown, CBDs are struggling. But if you go into suburbia, there is plenty of development of great properties, but it's very hard to come across the proper property in the best location that's irreplaceable, that's in an area that is desired by all, right? Those properties, which is what I focus on buying, they're very tough to come across because it's like a needle in a haystack.
Right.
So, and you can open 2,000 stores without developing another piece of real estate. There's plenty of real estate to be had, but you really want to stick and focus to the ones that are going to be extraordinary, not.
But the retail that we're talking about, it's those prime spots that the Chipotle would want or a Starbucks would want. Those vacancies are at less than 1%, and obviously in the communities where these things want to pop up. And since COVID, a lot of these retailers realize that they're going to be where their customers are, where a lot more communities were built, and people were finding their doctors in retail shopping centers. They're finding their dentists, their coffee, obviously, and all the different services that were normally not always popular to be in these retail stores. And now there's a real demand for these kind of stores to be part of the shopping centers, but there's not enough retail for these places to go into.
So back to development, right? Development is a widespread problem in every category. Why? Cost of construction has gone up, inflation, cost of capital has gone up. So when you sit there and you put a blueprint together and say, okay, I'm going to go develop this shopping center at today's cost of capital and today's cost of material, it doesn't pencil out. So that's the reason. Something's got to give. Things have to change for development to come back, and that's just not in retail. That's in every aspect. You're not seeing residential development, right? You're not seeing, you're seeing data centers, which are really boring, and industrial, which couldn't get more boring. But that's the extent of it. And even those, the industrial centers today, are difficult to pencil out. So development as a whole, all over America, has really come to a halt as a result of the Fed and the interest rates and the costs associated with it. So it's not retail specific.
Yeah, but so the cost of a triple net lease has gone up. The cost of labor has gone up. And what do you count? Like those things don't actually add up to the success that retail is seeing right now.
Sorry.
The cost of triple net leases have gone up. The cost of labor has gone up. And yet retail is experiencing pretty low vacancy across the country. It's at 4%. What do you attribute that to?
I'm sorry, Amir, I couldn't hear you. There's a lot of noise, and
yeah, I'm sorry.
For some reason,
it's coming from the other side.
Yeah. What's the question?
The question is, the cost of labor has gone up. The cost of triple net leases have gone up.
Yes.
And yet retail is experiencing low vacancies. What do you attribute it to?
But this is the surge. So the surge is all across the board, right? So retailers work on margins. So what they have to do is increase their margins. So they're increasing their goods, the cost of their goods and services. So, for example, an average restaurant by us used to, let's assume their volume used to be $4 million. That same restaurant today is doing $7 million. Now, that's not only because of pricing of tomatoes and eggs and whatever it was. I remember at one point eggs had quadrupled in price. It's a combination of inflation, so it's all across the board, and it's also a combination of the retailers having the luxury. Today, if you're not in the mood to go to a particular restaurant, but you want to eat their food, you're going to call it in.
Yeah.
So you're going to call it in, and you're going to Uber Eats, and you're going to get the delivery of your finest cuisine that twice a week you'll frequent, but you're not going to frequent it 7 times a week. But as far as that's why retail is doing extraordinarily well, right? With all of the higher cost and inflation, but they're making up for it with the different components that I've talked about.
Yeah. So, Mickey, you say that there is a lack of creativity in retail stores. You were the designer of the original Apple store. You were on the board of Apple for 16 years. And, Steve Jobs brought you on to help design the first retail store for Apple. The Apple store hasn't really changed since your design. And is this what you refer to when you say there's a lack of creativity in retail?
Well, if I could answer that question,
Sure.
I'll answer. I'm not a real estate.
And you got to hold it up to your.
Oh, sorry. I'll answer what retail needs to be and this is my own view of the retail world. You all, if you saw what they wore at the Met Gala the other night, I was stunned by what they wore. I mean, and this is supposed to be chic, Been there and done it many times, and I'm over that. But it was amazingly shocking that people wore what they wore. And the other thing is retail needs to be normal clothes and not that you have to buy, get a mortgage to buy designer clothes. Stunning. Stunning.
Yep.
And I can't believe it. And then discounting. So retail, no, the sales might be good, but, and I always ask this question, name a list of stores that if they close tomorrow, you would miss, because they all sell, and you got to get the right day to buy.
Mickey, you got to hold it up to your mic.
Okay. Okay. You got to be there the right day to take advantage of the right sale. I shop stores all the time. Why? I'm a perennial student, and there's nothing I don't learn when I ask a question. I love detective shows. I'm addicted. Clue after clue after clue. Now, all the stores, my old companies, I go to other companies, I say, what's the deal today? They say, this happened to one of the old ones. They said, well, it's 30% off all blazers today. So I said, what's the deal online? And they said, 40% off everything. And I said, I'll take she goes, but we offer 40 here. Can you imagine treating a customer like that? They're all doing it. Online is volume driven. They got to pay the bills. And then they screw their everyday customer. Now, I say that because I learned to be pissed off many years ago when I paid more in this store than that store. Best retailer in the world, she's always tells me not to say it, is TJ Maxx, Carol Meyerowitz. Everything you see there is not be there on the right day. The other things you see there are most brands that you see in department stores. So what it needs to be, product driven. You know, real estate's important, but the goods are the first thing. So when I say there's no creativity out there, it's only my definition. And the unexpected is much more exciting than any expected stuff. And look at the goods out there. And I'm just using, and I look at the fashion magazines for one reason. I always find a little clue. I read them all. I'm stunned every month when I read them, but there's always a little thing there. And so it needs to be what it will never be again unless they get merchants, style, a point of view, and not being, they're all discount stores, most of them.
Yeah.
And designers, 70% handbags and accessories. To me, it's a logo business. You always know when Hermes, Louis Vuitton, Chanel handbag comes down, Prada has a big metal sign and a triangle.
Right.
You know, they don't pay the customers for the billboard.
Ben,
So
Ben,
that's
what are you seeing in terms of creativity with retailers? You mentioned there's some collaborations going on. What sort of creativity are you seeing?
So
with
first
them?
of all, Mickey's right. Like what we used to consider great fashion, integrity of real merchants, that's pretty much gone. What's replaced it is logos. And everybody wants to wear one big fat logo. And there's a term for it I'd rather not say. It's logo with an H after it. And you go, so you said, where's the creativity? The creativity is that Bernard Arnault is capitalized on this phenomenon, right? He could put a brand on a T-shirt that cost him $10 and sell it for $1,000 or $500, right? But that's not fashion. That's just somebody buying a brand to say, whatever, I'm rich, or I pretend to be rich. And so fashion has changed. It's funny, my wife, when she was watching the Met Gala, said the same thing. She says, I'm appalled. You know, I used to go. I don't want to go anymore. I said, this isn't fashion. Look at these people. Look at what they're wearing. So yeah, the world of fashion has definitely changed, but so has the consumer base, right? And the consumer base is interested in the brands right now. You know, but what is exciting about? Let's focus on what they're doing right. Okay, what they're doing right is they're creating an experience within their store where the stores are magnificent. They hire Peter Marino. They build these huge, just incredible Louis Vuitton stores and Dior stores, and to name a few. And within the store, they're displaying art, and they're displaying Jeff Koons, and they're displaying Kusama, and they have all these collaborations. So they're really giving the customer a reason to want to come back. It's something to do. So the creation really is more on the physical aspect of the building itself and components of it, and less about the integrity of fashion, because the buyer right now just wants the brand.
But don't you think there's this whole push for quiet luxury? There's a whole push for quiet luxury.
There's a whole
If
what?
you can explain that to a civilian, it would be very impressive. It's all
Why don't you
bullshit.
explain it? Why don't you
Quiet
explain it?
luxury. The magazines got off on that word. I had a magazine, fashion magazine, call me to talk about quiet luxury. I said, why don't you talk about it? I have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
Because of Succession, it's a new name. I'm very cynical about most things, and I'm a contrarian. And, you know, there's no merchants like, you know, they hire people who do, what's that technology stuff called? Someone give me a name, whatever they call. Everything is statistics, data. There's no merchants. You know, I did the algorithms when I was at Bloomingdale's at 24 years old, because how many you own, how many do you sell, do you see around the corner, what do you feel? It's gone.
Well, you're also you were very against using researchers and statistics. You always, when you were doing stuff for J. Crew, you were going with your gut mostly.
You have to.
Yeah.
Is someone going to, how do you not go with your gut? You look at goods. I looked at goods today before I got here. It was an ugly sweater. I'm a merchant. An ugly looking, it was a great sweater in a bad color. And there I am kvetching, but they call it nothing satisfies him. Kind of true, but I expect from others what I expect from myself. But you can smell a merchant. It's probably true in real estate. I meet people, I talk to them on the phone. Energy you get on the phone, you get a point of view on the phone. I go to fancy colleges to speak. They're all studying in the entrepreneurial class. I mean, what the hell do you learn in an entrepreneurial class? Nothing about, it's what I believe, instinct, gut. I grew up modestly in the Bronx, and then in those days, a rich person to me drove a Cadillac. You know, today everyone wants to be rich. Louis Vuitton on the streets. Now, I wasn't of the manner born, but I used to stretch for certain things. When I was in my 20s, a Gucci buckled shoe I bought in Florence, hard to get. Today, everything's excessive. And I think, well, you said the designer business, I think it's all logo.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find. And the clothes the other night said it all. Look at the magazines. It's what America is now.
Yeah.
I can't, it makes it great opportunities for taste quality merchants at value, which is what I've done for 45 years running businesses.
Ben, recently your friend Jeff Sutton sold 2 of his buildings. You have some iconic buildings, obviously. Are you being wooed? These Europeans are coming in, LVMH, Keurig, Prada. They're paying north of $800 million for these buildings, for retail buildings. Are you being wooed for any of your retail by Europeans?
Yeah, of course. They're on a hunt. They've done so in Europe. They've purchased some really well located property. Gucci bought a tiny little piece of real estate for 600 million pounds. So Jeff was brilliant in seeing that and knowing that New York is one of the greatest cities and one of the greatest markets in the world. Went after that particular group of people, the Kering, the LVMH. They're looking at our properties as well. There is definitely right now a surge on them competing with one another by trying to control their own destiny, by controlling their own store, and they're fighting amongst themselves for the best corners. And so, we're obviously in the midst of doing the same thing, but Jeff is brilliant. He tackled it. He was the first to tackle it and the first to achieve, I think, what is numbers that are reasonable in the context of what they're able to pay, but may seem aggressive, but they're not at all, because that particular brand needs the identification, it needs the identity, the imaging. It's the image, and that corner is extremely important to him. And if he's not going to buy it, first of all, he's going to generate tremendous amount of cash flow. So best real estate, take Barney's as an example. That's the best piece of real estate on Madison Avenue, and I've chosen to keep it vacant for a reason, because one big whale is going to buy the whole thing, rather than, I've been talking about with my partners, convincing them not to split it up, not to have office on the third, fourth and fifth floor, and then carve out the retail. I said, guys, sit tight. We don't need to do anything. Let's just wait. There's going to be one guy who's going to want the whole property, and he's going to pay $1 billion for it. And so right now there's 3 guys, and they're all, gunning for it.
Well, there's only so many people or so many retailers that can take an entire building and do something with it. Obviously, Prada can do it. LVMH can do it. Bergdorf has a great market going for themselves. Neiman Marcus came into the city and they failed, right? They had 300,000 square feet in Hudson Yards, and it didn't work out for them. So what kind of a buyer do you see for Barney's building?
It only takes one.
Yeah.
So you mentioned 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And there's more. So I can't divulge who it is, but it only takes one. And the best corner on Madison Avenue, the best luxury corner, is going to go to the highest and best bidder.
Do you think retail is the best use for that area? Because you're seeing a lot of different, the Mermelstein is doing the condominiums there on Fifth Avenue and in the 50s, and there's a lot of condos going up in that area. SL Green is building condos in that area.
Yeah.
Do you see any other use for it other than retail?
Well, no matter what they do above, the ground level is retail, achieving today, again, telephone numbers on Madison Avenue. Madison Avenue from 57th Street north has all become basically flagships for all of the high-end retailers. And they've shifted somewhat from lower Fifth Avenue into Madison Avenue.
Yeah.
So, if you can go vertical and build a 100-story building on top of a 3-story retail flagship store, why not, right? So, but, and we're going to, there is a limitation to how much you could build as far as height limitation on Madison Avenue. So I think that the SL Green project, which is an extraordinary project, is at the limit of what they could build. But they're going to generate tremendous amount of income from the ground level.
And Mickey, if you were doing the same kind of expansions that you did for the Gap or for J. Crew, right now, how would you go about it? How would you go about an expansion of retail stores across the country?
I wouldn't add one store on either company. I'll never forget going to Phoenix, and there were 3. I didn't do real estate. That was left up to others. I said to the store man, I said, anything we can do better? That's where you learn. You don't learn from ivory towers. And she said, there's 2 other stores within 10 or 15-minute drive. I'll never forget, I drove to both of them, and it was a disaster. Mm-hmm. Any corner. But what would I do today? Well, I'd like someone to give us, I'd like someone who has great real estate to take a shot. Because the shot is excitement, new, and this is a paid-in commercial, by the way. The second thing is all of you, please check us out online. I have a very small budget. So what would I do? I would get rid of half the goods they sell. I'd open smaller stores, and customers look, they go to a supermarket, 30 cereals you have to choose from. I do quotes every week. I said, show the best 5. People get over-assorted. They have big stores, and the bigger, the worse.
Yeah.
And, so what I don't know, right now what I would do.
Into the mic.
Oh, right now what I would do is open up 1,500, maybe 2,000 square feet. And that's what I do. Now, I'm very conservative because I grew up in the Bronx and I don't like to write big checks. In real estate, I asked Ben at breakfast, does he have any free stores for me? He didn't answer. But in any case, I would be, real estate used to be, my old friend McNally, Keith, where he put a store or a restaurant, he created great value. We did the liquor store on West Broadway many years ago. It was phenomenal. Todd Snyder now has the location. Creative. Think in front of what does the emotion make a customer feel like? Going to a restaurant, it's vibe, it's this. I don't know if anyone's been to the pizza restaurant in New Jersey, Jersey City, called Razza, R-A-Z-Z. He's going to be very happy. Every single, I'm like the chef in the kitchen. Every style we do, I'm into everything. I want to see all the pictures. That's someone who controls the image. And at Razza, I swear there's this guy inspecting every pizza out of the pizza oven. And people say it's the best worldwide. I shouldn't say this because then everyone's going to try to get a table there. But, you have to care. You have to look at it. And you have to have a point of view and a vision. And I always say it's a narrow vision. Focus. And I looked at an email yesterday. I said, too late. I said, that's not Alex Mill. And I'll never forget at J. Crew, the first signal was a catalog cover. I should have done something 20 years ago. It wasn't what it should be. That's what people want.
Yep. Ben, I'm going to this last question. I'm being told to wrap it up. Last question to you, Ben. What I'd like to know is what's the area? You always pick out iconic locations and iconic buildings for the retail you pick. Do you ever find new areas where you get excited about that are sort of unknown to the rest of the market?
So I hate pioneering, so I'm not a pioneer. So I like to just focus on what's established, what's great. We just, for example, right before COVID, we purchased what I believe is the #1 piece of real estate in all of Westchester. It's called Vernon Hills. It's 400,000 square feet, right in the heart of Westchester, and surrounded by Scarsdales and all the towns, wealthy towns of Westchester. And it's an open-air experience, and it was its second generation. The grandfather built it, and the gentleman that I bought it from was 84 years old, and I'd called him every single year for 15 years until he finally said, you know what, it's time to sell. So, we have our target list. The properties we want to buy are one of a kind.
Yeah.
They're situated in places where you couldn't duplicate them or build another. So I don't need to pioneer. What I need to do, like take Vernon Hills, which I did, and double or triple the revenue of the tenants,
right,
by putting in tenants that are relevant versus the tenants that he had. Obviously, being a second-generation owner, he had a bunch of mom-and-pop tenants, and we signed leases with Nike and Sephora and Sweet Greens and Lululemon and Fleta and West Elm and Pottery Barn. So, we're actually one of the most beautiful Barnes and Nobles you'll ever see, with a food and beverage component and a big terrace. And so, our job is to curate, to take something that has been mismanaged or for lack of a better word, just owned by some, a family that maybe were not in the retail business. And our job is to curate, perfect it, bring in tenants that are relevant, and also give an experience that's going to bring the consumer back as often as possible.
So you're not deviating from Class A locations and Class A buildings?
I'm sorry?
You're not deviating from Class A locations?
I'm not deviating from Class A locations. No, I'm not.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Ben Ashkenazy. Thank you, Mickey Drexler. Thanks, everyone.
I want to be Mickey when I grow up.